3 months after I started speaking my mind about the real world, I got swatted. So someone literally tried to have me and my parents killed via law enforcement. And then one evening, my dad realized that I wasn't as responsive, so they called the paramedics, and fire and rescue came in to like get me down the stairs and take me to the hospital. So I got down to like 570, and then by January of this year, I was back up to 624.
Where are you at right now?
493. All over 100 million video views.
100 million video views? Yep. Good morning. This is the JP Dinnell podcast, episode 93. I am JP Dinnell, and as always, I have Lucas with me. Today, we have the absolute honor of sitting down with a guest who is making a legitimate impact with people all across the world due to his strong social media presence that is rooted in his incredible attitude. I know a lot of people that have very strong social media presence. They have a lot of followers, but just because you have a lot of followers doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing. Doesn't mean that you're actually delivering impact and value to other humans because you genuinely care. And the guest that we have today has an incredible story that I think every single one of us can relate to, because life has a lot of victories and a lot of defeats, and how we are as humans is universal. We all experience victory. We all experience defeat. We have great times in life. We have struggles. We have times that are neutral. There are times that we are in the game, on the fight, moving forward, addressing the things that are in front of us. And then there are other times that we allow that complacency to creep in. And that complacency is a slow creep. And that's why we have to go to war with complacency every single day. And from what I've seen of this young man, due to his presence and the partnerships that he's been able to create because of the life choices he is now making to get back on the path, to provide value and just impact to people, he, from what I've seen, has declared war against complacency. And one of the ones that I know we will address is his health. And I know that's something that every single human deals with, whether at a small level or a large level. He's also overcome a lot in life in regards to business and building up great things and doing things that almost nobody has been able to do, yet he's been able to do that. And those things fell apart. And at times, as he'll probably describe, like he didn't understand why they were falling apart. And I know personally that I've had things in my life fall apart where it did not make sense. And there comes a time in your life that you can choose to play the victim card, because it's very easy. Playing the victim card is very easy because you can just blame everybody around you. You can make excuses. You don't have to take ownership, and it's easy. And this young man had a choice. He could play the victim card, or he could choose to take ownership over his life and decide to do the right things for the right reasons and move forward and regain what was lost and build something that he's never built before. And I'm honored that Lucas and I get to sit down with Ethan Benard. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. Thank you for saying the last name right. That is rare.
We've had our last names butchered a time or two, haven't we, Mr. Dinner?
Yeah, Dinner, Dinnelli, Dinello. I'm like, there's not even an... Okay, cool, whatever. Yep.
You just look
Lucas,
Italian.
have you ever been called Picard?
Oh, Picard. My favorite is Pinkerton, because most of those letters don't appear in my name.
That's amazing.
So good.
Ethan, welcome. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Man, this is awesome. And you know what's really cool is that this episode is going to come out on my favorite holiday, the 4th of July.
That's awesome.
And this is also our very first Zoom episode that we've ever gotten to do with a guest. So I'm honored that you're here. I'm really looking forward to learning from you and just diving into your life so that we can dissect the value that you have brought, the lessons that you have learned, so that our listeners can have more knowledge and more information to choose what they want to do with their life, just like you have done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man.
Awesome. Lucas, do you have anything before we kick this off?
No, I'm stoked. So I found Ethan on social media, or rather the algorithm found Ethan for me on social media, and he popped up, and it was it was just a video of him stepping onto a scale and the scale talking to him, and he'd stepped onto the scale 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
And then the next video I saw, he was on screen with Jocko, and I sent JP a message, and I was like, who the heck is this kid? Like, I've seen one video, and then the next thing I know, he's talking to your boss. Like, are you getting fired and we don't know about it? Like, what's happening here? Maybe Ethan's taking your place. But it was cool as I started to just scroll through the videos and see like just how his story was impacting me and Kirsten as we were watching his content, and then seeing how he got in with Jocko Fuel and just the alignment that we've got on a lot of stuff. I was like, this is it. This is our next podcast guest.
Dude,
Done
it's
deal.
awesome the way God works things and puts them together. And I know, Ethan, that you're going to talk about that is sometimes the timing doesn't make sense. Sometimes the timing isn't as awesome as we want it to be. And so I'm thankful for this opportunity to sit down with you. So real quick, how old are you?
So I'm 25, man. I turned 26 in 2 weeks.
Some
Nice.
pup.
I know, young buck. 25 was that 23 to 27 were awesome years. They were, it was good times. Where are you originally from and where do you live now?
So I'm from West Michigan. I've been born and raised here. So
Okay.
still here, but hopefully not too much longer.
What part of
you
West
know?
Michigan?
A county called Allegan.
Okay.
So kind of southwest.
Okay, nice. I spent a good amount of time up in, we would stay in the Novi area and we'd work all throughout that state with Consumers Energy. They're one of our clients at Echelon Front, and so I've gotten to know the state of Michigan pretty well. Good people. Tough, man. Those winters that come through, and I love that one of your videos. You said, you get done with a workout and getting after it, and you're like, I'm going to take a cold shower, and you're like, for up here, it's just a shower. The winters are brutal up there. It's
man.
probably some of the coldest I've ever been. So talk to us real quick about your childhood. What was your childhood like? What was the family dynamics? And as you're thinking and talking through that, what are some things from your childhood that you feel defined you as an individual, whether it was great interactions with family or bad interactions with family or outside individuals? Like, walk us through your childhood and who has made Ethan who he is.
Yeah, man. So I grew up always large.
Okay.
Like I was 200 pounds by the age of 9.
And how tall are you now?
So I'm 6'5" now. I was always like a few inches above the rest of my class minimum. So,
This is not my
but yeah, man. So
experience.
I grew up. I don't know if lonely is the right word. Like, I think that's pretty accurate. But I did go to a private Christian school in Martin, Michigan, and that was a really good experience. I still remember that fondly. But when we were transitioning from elementary school to middle school, they lost the funding for their middle and high school.
Okay.
So I went from being in this private Christian school from preschool to 5th grade to, hey, guess what, buddy? You're in public school now. And I wasn't necessarily having a bad time there. Like, my intelligence always allowed me to counteract like bullying.
Yeah.
So even though I was always huge, I didn't get bullied a lot because a lot of the times I was like the smartest kid in class.
Okay.
I don't like being cocky, but that's just how it was.
I mean, if it's a factual statement, you're being confident in your abilities that God has given you. So I'm good with that.
Yeah. So, no, 6 months into public school, I was like, this is ridiculous. The way the teachers act, the way the kids are treating the teachers, the way the kids are treating each other. I was like, Mom, Dad, I can't do this. And then I did online. So
Really?
I actually spent from 6th grade up until my senior year of high school doing online classes. The only social interaction I ever really got was church.
Okay, so when you said lonely and feeling alone earlier, I mean, do you think part of that is or strongly rooted in the fact that you went from a private Christian school where you were around kids and teachers, you had the social aspect, public school wasn't your deal? I get it. My daughters chose and are still being homeschooled because they're not a fan of the public school system.
Yeah.
And just because it's the way they learn, the way they interact, and we knew that always possesses a small risk of isolation. And so we've been very adamant in having them do Jiu-Jitsu. They're very involved in the church. They do other things as well. But while you're doing that online schooling, your only interactions with other humans were on Sundays at church outside of your family?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Cousins maybe a few times a week at my grandma's house, and then church on Sundays. Like, I actually met my best friend Danny in like preschool or kindergarten at Sunday school.
Nice.
So like 20 years ago, we literally walked up to each other and we were like, "Hey, do you want to be best friends?"
Yes.
And that was it.
amazing.
That's been a 2-decade long friendship now.
Well, I want to encourage you because I have a Danny that is a almost 4-decade best friend friendship. Our moms taught step aerobics together. We met in daycare. And so
Yeah.
we were just close friends as little kids, and then ended up going to high school together, and then just stayed really close friends. And now he works at Echelon Front as well with me. And so
That's awesome.
almost 4 decades of, and so you have a Danny, I have a Danny. Seems like Danny's a solid
Yeah,
friend to
dude.
find, y'all.
My sister-in-law's named Danny. She's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
With an I?
Yes. And with an
Well,
I.
ours are DANNY, I'm
Yeah.
assuming, right? All right, so Ethan, so you met Danny, had that really close friendship, but you're doing the online school, a lot of isolation, a lot of loneliness. How did you work through that? Or like, what were there like coping things that came about that?
I remember my childhood fondly.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really like a negative thing.
Okay, good.
But I think that loneliness played a big factor in the weight gain.
Okay.
Because I would just do video games in my free time. Like I would finish my school easy, like with homeschool, right? You work at your own pace. I was done by noon every day.
Nice.
So I grew up working on homework from like 8 a.m. to noon, done. I could spend the next 8 to 10 hours doing whatever I wanted.
Cool.
So
And at that time, you
I don't
chose,
think just sitting there playing video games and eating did me any favors.
Yeah, I
But-
would assume that's probably not ideal.
Yeah.
But it's the path that you chose at the time and you went through. And so, but the gaming aspect turned out to be actually very beneficial for your life as you grew up.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the weight gain was a negative consequence to that just solidarity, isolation type of lifestyle. What was your relationship like with your parents? Do you have any siblings? What was it like with cousins?
Only child.
Okay, only child.
But I've always been very close with my parents.
Okay, good.
They've always been supportive.
Awesome. And how important was, you went to a Christian school, but just because people go to Christian schools doesn't mean that they are, in fact, a Christian or acting like Christians should. They might not be saved. They not be following, the life that we should live as Christians. What was your faith like as a kid, and how do you think that played into who you are?
I think that I got an incredibly strong foundation in my faith.
Okay,
I've never questioned it in my entire adult life at all.
nice.
My faith has certainly been drained, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I've never once questioned like whether or not I'm saved. You know what I
Nice.
mean?
Okay. So you definitely had a defining moment of salvation in your life. Do you remember when that moment was? Were you a little kid? Or?
No, I'm sure I got saved like 3 or 4 times during like Sunday school. at
Sunday
some
school
point,
or
you know?
church camp, and you're like, hey, I just want to make sure we're good to go. We're gonna.
I actually have not been water baptized yet. Just kind of thought about that this year. So I
Well.
do want to get that done at some point.
Well, it's an important thing, my man.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into it before, but it's being water baptized for me was important as a kid, and then for me to have had the opportunity to baptize like other friends and family, it's an absolute incredible thing because you're making that full commitment, which is something I encourage you to pray about, and when God puts on your heart, like, let's make it happen, my man. It's important.
Yeah.
It's important for you. All right. So, your childhood was good. You had a good relationship with your parents. It wasn't like there was any neglect. It's not like you were playing video games to hide from your parents or, to go to a
Well,
safe
my dad
space.
works a lot, but he's been supporting us for a long time.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome. I
it's
just,
not like you can knock him for doing his job.
no,
you know?
definitely not. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I just know that I have come across individuals who, similar background to yourself, like, hey, was playing video games, gained a lot of weight because all I was doing was sitting around playing video games and eating, and they were doing that as like a coping mechanism for the for the really hard just life that they had to deal with parents
Yeah.
of like whether they were
No,
physically
I was
or
very
verbally abused.
blessed
Yeah.
growing up, man. Like I never had to go without anything.
Nice.
We aren't like rich, but we're like standard middle class. We never had to like worry about whether or not we were going to be able to pay anything.
Yeah. It's funny you say we weren't rich, but the definition of rich, it's like, what is that? Because
that's true.
I know people that make less than 100,000 a year, and they have awesome lifestyles. They're very good with their finances. They save, they invest, they tithe, they live well below their means. They feel like they're rich because they have a good marriage, they have a good family, their kids are healthy, they have what they need, they have money in savings, they're not stressed out, they have a good solid job. And then I have other people that are in that same category of income, and that are like just struggling, right? Because they spend more than they make, and and then I also know people who literally make millions and millions of dollars a year that are broke, that think that they're poor, their marriage is falling apart, their kids don't talk to them, their kids don't like them, they don't have a relationship with, and it's like they have all this money but they're miserable. And so the definition of rich is like, what does that actually mean?
No, I could see how that could definitely be subjective.
You had an awesome environment to have parents that loved you, that poured into you, that instilled Christian values into you, that had you in church, which it was a root of who you are. And that's what's really cool is like what I've seen from you from this Eclipse Online and, doing a little more due diligence is you genuinely care about helping other people. And I think that's an incredible characteristic that you have. So you're doing high school, you're online, like what do you think are going to be the next steps for you? Like, what do you want to do out when you graduate?
It's funny you say that, because I played video games, not like you said, not as a coping mechanism, because I loved them, and I still do. I think that that industry is incredible. I think a lot of the people in it are cuckoo, but that industry in itself is amazing. I personally think that it is the greatest medium of storytelling that people have created so far.
Really?
Because there's really nothing you can compare to, like, just for a random example, like a game like Red Dead 2, where you can like enter this world and experience all these little hidden details and all these like the character development, and like you can fit so much contextual context and all these storytelling and the performances of the actors and everything into like this big 100-hour experience than you ever could like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah, my son Hayden absolutely loves that game. And when I had the blessing of being reconnected with him in January and saw him in February and March, and one of the first things he wanted to show me was that game.
Yeah.
And show
my
me.
dad, who barely has any time for anything, he managed to put 100 hours into that game.
Wow.
He loves it.
The storylines are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And the graphics are pretty legit as well.
Oh yeah. So coming back to that, I loved gaming as a medium. I was really good at it before the hospital, which we'll get to. And I always thought, actually, funnily enough, I always thought that I was going to end up writing about them. Because I grew up a big fan of like sites like IGN, like media publications surrounding video games. And I was friends with a lot of those people as a teenager. I was literally like sending friend requests to people that worked there as like a 14-year-old kid on Facebook, and they were accepting it. I don't know why. So I became friends with some of these guys that were at like some of the top media companies related to games, and I got really into the journalism thing. And then in high school, it kind of clicked, and I was like, these media companies have 20 or 30 different people sharing their opinions about these things on the same platform. So there's no consistency in the voice that these corporations are putting out.
Okay.
Because you can have someone reviewing a game, and then you can have another review that's on the same site from the same place that's a completely different person with a completely different perspective on a different game. And so when I realized how the importance and how much more value like an individual has over something like a big publication, that's when I was kind of like, oh crap, I don't want to be a journalist. I want to be like a YouTuber, you know?
And so what were the next steps that you took to pursue that path?
So coming out of high school, I was really deep into the IT stuff just because I had to learn a lot about computers to like build my own. And with the gaming stuff particularly, I was in that shift that a lot of people have where they went from like the PlayStation at their TV to like building their own computer and getting into that kind of gaming. But, you know, I graduated high school at the top of my IT class, and I could not even get a job at Best Buy.
Hold on. Say that one more time.
I graduated high school. I was the only person in my class of senior year to pass the Microsoft certification.
Okay.
I came out of school with like 3 IT certs, 6 to 9 months of like CIS experience, and I literally could not even get a job at Best Buy.
Why is that?
No work experience. That's the only thing they gave a crap about was work experience.
Do you think Best Buy to me sounds like the perfect place to go get work experience?
That's what I'm saying. I applied for both Geek Squad and Sales Associate. They did 4 interviews and they never called me back.
Okay. So that happens.
I would trust him on the Geek Squad.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. That would have been great.
Okay. Didn't work out. Thought it was going to be a part of your path.
Yeah.
So what did you decide to do next?
So I ended up going retail.
Okay.
Which was really bad. I don't recommend it to anybody. That was the worst 9 months of my life. But I actually started going to college for IT.
Okay.
Even though the job thing wasn't working out, and then I worked retail. And about 9 months into that, I was like still in with a lot of the video game guys, and I was starting to become friends with some of these YouTubers. And then I was like, I could do that, you know? So I actually, in September or October of 2018, I literally quit my retail job, dropped out of college, and just started going all in on like the gaming content stuff.
Nice. Okay. Well, we'll back up to retail real quick. You said it was horrible. I've heard that from people a lot. I've also heard people say that it was awesome that because they learned a lot from it. What if you were to look back on those 9 months, what were some lessons though that you were able to take away from that environment? Not ideal for Ethan, not the way that you like to live your life or think or interact, which is great because we're all different as humans. But if you were to look back on those 9 months, like what would be a lesson that you took from that? Or what is something that you wish you could do over? What is something you wish you could do over to make those 9 months better?
I don't know if there's much more I could have done there. Like,
Okay.
they literally were pretty deceptive about even the job position I got. So, you know, like some of those phone centers at the front of some retail stores?
Okay.
They called me and they were like, hey, do you know about cell phones? Like, we're going to have you work at the mobile center. And once I got hired, they stuck me back in electronics. So right off the gate, I was like a completely different environment than what I was expecting.
Okay.
But I tried really hard to I was probably the only electronics sales associate at one of these big box stores that had returning customers. Like I had some old ladies that would come back with their cell phones to have me help them with little stuff and
That's awesome.
Stuff like that, man.
Okay, cool. So there was some stuff you were able to figure out, adapt, overcome. Again, not the ideal world that you want to live in, which is fine. And so you're in school and then you're pursuing, doing this on your own. What did that journey look like for you?
So I dropped out of college. I was doing a dual degree. I was going for both media and IT.
Okay.
But because none of the certifications I had, they wouldn't count towards the classes. So they were kind of making me relearn what I had just spent my senior year learning a little bit. So the IT classes were getting pretty boring, and the media classes I wasn't learning a lot from. So the college kind of felt like a time and money sink a bit.
Okay.
And then I got to the point with my management at retail where I was like, this is just not worth it.
Okay.
You know? So at that point, like I said, I dropped out, I quit, and then I started doing YouTube. Okay. I literally took my computer downstairs, and just started making like whatever, gaming videos. I was not very good at it. Like they're not bad, but compared to what I do now, it's just looking back on it's really kind of funny, man.
Yeah, but had you not done those initial videos, you wouldn't have been able to progress and grow to where you're at right now.
Yeah.
When I was an instructor in the SEAL teams, we would have guys, brand new guys, we call them new guys, and they would come through. So they made it through BUDS, which is basic underwater demolition SEAL training. They go through SQT, which is their SEAL qualification training, the advanced training after BUDS before you check in the SEAL team. And, by the time a guy gets done with that training, they're worth a few $1 million worth of training that they've received. So you would expect them to be at a high level, and they are. But they're at a very low level compared to the rest of the operators in the SEAL teams. And when you're an instructor in the SEAL teams, you have to get those guys up to speed. And so when we're doing close quarters combat and you have a new guy out of SQT, he could be the absolute best guy in his SQT class. He's going to be at the bottom of those other guys that have been doing it for years because of time, repetition, intentional training. The debriefs that we do in the SEAL teams expedite and facilitate growth. And as I'm hearing you talk about your first videos, like, yeah, they were good, but they're nothing compared to now. I hope our listeners can take that away of like, hey, if there's something you want to do, do it. Start putting in the work, do some evaluations, make some tweaks, make some changes, and you're going to grow and get better and evolve over time if you stay consistent. What was your tempo for like, okay, hey, I'm going to create X amount of videos, like what standards did you have at the beginning? Or if you didn't have any, when did you realize like, hey, I need to be a little more intentional with growing this if you're wanting it to actually become something?
Yeah, man. So I never really found a ton of success doing the videos. Like my channel, I think over the course of 4 or 5 years went from like 0 to 6,000, which isn't bad. But about 8 months into making them, I realized I was leaning towards the information side of things. Because the only way to grow, or at least the way that I found easiest to grow as a gaming creator, was to provide value via guidance. So I found myself making guides more than anything.
Okay.
But then I realized that those guides weren't a good way to actually portray my personality.
Okay.
Because you can't really be funny when you're just telling people stuff. Like you can.
Yeah.
But I wasn't at the time. I was just being professional and like, oh, this is how you do this kind of thing,
Okay. So when did you realize that there needed to be a shift from, okay, I'm doing this, this isn't really what I want to do or how I want to be portrayed. And you're also seeing it's like, okay, it's not delivering the impact that I thought it was going to be in regards to growth towards your YouTube. What was that shift for you?
Yeah. So in May of 2019, I was like, all right, I just got to do something. And our internet at our house was so bad that I literally decided to rent an office downtown and go all in on broadcasting.
What type of broadcasting?
So I was a streamer on a site called Twitch,
Okay.
which is like video game streaming.
Yep.
So I went from sitting down and making a YouTube video every day that was informational to sitting down and live streaming like 8 or 10 hours a day trying to be entertaining.
You would sit down and live stream for 10 hours a day?
60 hours a week.
Bro, that is insane.
Yep.
What's the average person doing for live stream on Twitch?
Probably 3 or 4 hours a day.
Yeah, so you went all in, not just in like go to get the office and all that stuff, but also time. That's a massive chunk.
Oh, I was at the office 65 to 70 hours a week, easy.
Good grief, dude.
And for the first 6 to 9 months there, I didn't even make videos alongside it. I was just broadcasting, which was a mistake, because you don't grow by just being live.
Right.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize that at first. And I actually did grow a little bit just by being live, but just through some friends and stuff. But Yeah, I was spending, and once I realized that, ended up spending even more time there, both doing the broadcasting and the videos and stuff.
So you're doing the live broadcast, and the intent, like you said, was to kind of be a character, have fun, and so are other people following you as you're playing these games? They're watching you play games?
Yep.
And
It's very bizarre.
so why do they watch you play video games instead of just playing them themselves?
Just to be entertained, Ben.
Okay. So
I think
for
that's
them,
what it
instead of
boils down
them,
to.
okay, so instead of them sitting down and watching a Netflix series, because I know someone's like thinking some negative thoughts towards those people, and I just want to stop you because maybe some of our listeners need to do a little honest assessment of how many series they binge watch. So let's just remember entertainment,
Well, and it's generational too, right? Like our grandparents thought we were ridiculous for sitting down and watching more than one episode of something, and they're like, how are you not like stir crazy already? How do you not want to get up and go outside? And we're like, because the TV's on.
Yeah.
And then with our parents, when we first started playing video games, they didn't get that either. And for them, it was a really difficult medium to adjust to. And now looking at this new generation, is they're like, no, we don't want to play the video games. We want to watch people who are good play the video games because it's frustrating to lose. And it's cool to see somebody who does something well do it. And that was, the thing that they do well. There's more commonality across the spectrum from like the millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha in the video games they played than in the sports that they played growing up these days, which is kind of bizarre to think of that how that shift has been made because of the advent of the internet.
I can see that. Like I love training Jiu-Jitsu, but I love watching people compete in Jiu-Jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a big part of it, man.
I mean, I get it. Like as we're talking through this, I'm like, I'm really starting to get it. That may not be my personality. I'm not a big video game guy. I don't, I am now like learning more about them because, my son Hayden plays them. Our oldest son Aiden plays them as well. And so for me to be able to kind of watch them play and is cool,
Yeah.
But we also like are very big on like, hey, no, you're going to do other things like jiu-jitsu and be active and be, out and about. And so I definitely can see it because I love training jiu-jitsu, but I don't compete in jiu-jitsu. I'm going to compete at probably in the summer, beginning of fall.
Yeah, you better.
No, that's
awesome.
It's actually on the
Good.
calendar.
Good, because one person at this table got their butt kicked for nothing if you didn't.
Hey, do you remember the one I was signed up for, and then all of a sudden, miraculously, I got pulled from, and for Megan, my wife still claimed they had nothing to do with that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyways.
That's all right.
I had some health stuff going on, Ethan, and I was still going to compete because I was signed up, I was committed, and all of a sudden now I was no longer on the bracket or in it.
So weird.
And my
What happened to this event?
my professor, who's connected literally across the world in jiu-jitsu, still claims he had nothing to do with it. And I actually talked to my wife about it with my sister and brother-in-law last night, and I looked at my wife and she goes, I didn't have anything to do with it. So anyways, we're joking because I still am going to fulfill my commitment that I made earlier in the year of competing. But I bring that up because I love training jiu-jitsu, but I don't compete all the time. But I love watching people compete in jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So people that love video games, they're watching someone who's really good at it and that can execute at a high level. And that's their form of entertainment
what was
and
really
also
cool too
education,
about it,
I'm
man,
sure.
because if you go into gaming streams, you'll see two type of people. You'll see people who try to be funny and aren't the best.
Okay.
And you'll see people who don't care about entertaining people and just want to be good.
And you wanted to be both.
And I was doing both. Like, I wasn't a professional. Like, I'm not one of the guys that's being paid six figures to play at a top 1% level. But I was playing at a top 10% level in a game that had 100 million players. And I was trying to be funny. Like, I would literally spend the whole time just talking to chat and making jokes and stuff while I was playing in these lobbies with people who are better than 9 out of 10 people.
What game had 100 million users that you were playing?
A game called Valorant.
Valorant. What's that game about?
Awful. It was
I love it.
it was a Counter-Strike clone from the company that made League of Legends.
Okay.
So it's like a first-person shooter.
Oh,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. Sounds like another
So it
cool
was a
name.
competitive first-person shooter, but that was the thing with those games, man. Like I have probably north of 15,000 hours of experience in those type of games. And when you beat somebody, like when you get a kill, you are literally besting another person. So when you're at the level when you can play a 45-minute match and get 30 or 40 eliminations and only die like 10 or 15 times, you just beat 40 other people in that scenario.
Oh,
And that mentally is awesome. You know what I mean?
That's a good winning is always a good dopamine hit, especially when
Yeah.
you dominate.
wow. Okay.
I'm not that good at video games, so everything he's talking about is very theoretical to me that it could possibly happen.
Okay.
Other people can do this.
I like it.
Well, that's
cool.
why it's such a dopamine thing, man. Like when you win a fight, you just beat someone else. It's not like just playing Zelda where you like, oh, you solve a puzzle. Like you are literally using your hand-eye coordination and your mechanical skill to best another person. And that is just a great feeling, man.
So your Twitch channel, people start to see that, all right, this is a guy who's a really good player. He's also really fun and really funny to watch. So you end up seeing a lot of, kind of growth and success there. What was that journey like of taking it from like, hey, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm streaming 10 hours a day. Now all of a sudden people are coming. I'm starting to make a little money doing this. Like take us on that journey.
I was locked in, man. So it was pretty interesting because when that game that I mentioned was being developed, I got in on the ground floor really, really early. They released kind of a project trailer about the game in late 2019, kind of showing off that they were making it, but they didn't like reveal the name. They just kind of talked about like, hey guys, we're making this game. We're excited. And I had the intuition to create a 33-minute analysis of their 80-second trailer. And the team who made the game, a guy on the team that made the game, saw that and showed it to the entire development team. So I was actually in with that dev team really early on, and through those connections, I was able to really grow even that much faster because I got into I got to play the game earlier than everyone else. So I was in a big advantageous position in that game specifically.
Okay, so that obviously helps you. And so going back to what Lucas was saying about growing, what's the proper terminology? Your profile in Twitch or your account?
Channel. I think
Channel. Okay, channel.
Like YouTube.
So what does that look like for you? Like, is it like steady growth? Is it all of a sudden like, hey, I'm like in on some of the early development, so it's giving me some expedited growth? Like, what does that look like for you? And at what point did you realize like, hey, this is actually something I could do to make a living, provide value?
Well, that was
impact?
always the goal, right?
Okay.
Like making it a livable thing. No, when the game entered its beta state, like kind of early on, it was a pretty big spurt of growth, and then throughout the rest of 2020, it was pretty steady at that like 100 people watching mark, which isn't bad. Like Twitch and those gaming platforms are so oversaturated that if you have 10 people watching you, you have more viewers than 90% of people.
Oh, wow.
So if you have 10 viewers, you have more viewers than 90%, and you had 100 viewers?
Yep.
Okay.
So I was well within the top 1% at that point.
Jeez.
And then in early 2021, someone's like, dude, you should make a TikTok.
Okay.
I don't like TikTok.
Okay.
But I did make one, and I just started posting clips, and it went from 0 to 100,000 followers in about 60 days.
Oh, good grief.
And it was literally just clips of me playing from my stream.
So did that transfer over, like your TikTok following? Did those people come and find you on Twitch? Because like cross-platform stuff is supposed to be really challenging.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Most TikTok creators can't move their audience.
Yeah.
Like they'll have a ton of views on TikTok, and then if you go to like their YouTube or their Twitch, it'll be like minuscule compared to their TikTok following. But I went from averaging 100 viewers to within 2 months of starting TikTok averaging over 1,000.
1,000 viewers on
On a
Twitch.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is insane for that site.
So, just for our perspective, and you can tell me you don't want to answer this question if that's the case. For people who are like outside of this industry or it's like completely unfamiliar to them, is there like from a livelihood perspective, right? Like what are we talking? Like 1,000 people who are consistently viewing averages, are we talking this is like
so
$2,000 a month?
I
Is
was
this $5,000 a
making
month?
roughly $1,500 a month on average in 2020.
Okay. With the
I was
100
making
viewers?
more than that with the initial growth spurt.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, and I didn't take a lot of sponsorships. I'm super picky about who I work with. So that was just sheerly based off like subscriptions and ad revenue type of thing from the audience.
Right.
No, I was making like over $6,000 a month just from Twitch
In 2022.
before, like by April of 21.
Pretty solid.
And that doesn't, and I didn't do any sponsorships, but that if I had done sponsorships, that number could have easily doubled or tripled.
From playing
Like I
video
would say
games.
right now, the
It's
average
crazy, man.
streamer who's averaging 1,000 viewers on a platform like Twitch, they're easily making way over 10,000 a month.
And that's because of what Twitch is paying them and sponsorship.
Yeah, sponsorships are huge. Like a brand deal, when you have 1,000 people watching you live, you could easily get paid $5,000 or $6,000 for like one sponsored stream.
Interesting.
That's crazy to think about because this is an
Yeah.
industry I know.
That's a lot of
nothing
people,
about.
man.
Oh yeah,
Especially
yeah, for sure.
on a platform like Twitch, because Twitch is more of a long form, like horizontal format, right? It's
Yeah.
not like TikTok or Instagram where you just pull you can access it from your phone, but it's not like just that short attention span, short form content that most people consume.
Yeah, they're locked in. And did you find that like your audience, a lot of them were like recurring, like you'd see the same people watching you
Oh
every
yeah,
night?
I had a lot of regulars.
That's wild.
Okay. What was your were you able to regularly interact with your followers? Do you feel like that was what helped
yeah.
build? Okay, so that helped
That's
build
what set me apart,
the
man, because
loyalty?
I
Okay.
was playing at that level, but I was also constantly reading and responding to the live chat.
Really?
Most people who play at that level,
Can't
they're
do
really honed in on the game. And then after the match is over, after the round is over, they'll look up and they'll read something,
So you were doing it like in game, and that's kind of what set you apart.
I was doing it constantly in the middle of rounds while I was playing. I didn't care. I just always focused on that aspect, because what's the point of live streaming if you're not going to utilize that live interaction,
That's wicked. So you end up you're now at the point where you're making a livelihood doing this, and
Yeah.
then what happens that kind of creates this? Really, I guess it's an illness. It sounds like something happened, and now all of a sudden, like Twitch is this revenue stream that you've generated, where you're creating your livelihood, kind of goes by the wayside. Walk us through like that process. When did you notice you were getting sick, and what was that like?
I didn't notice at all. So one of my greatest professional achievements was achieving Twitch Partner, which is a very sought after status on Twitch, where you get like this big official verification badge and you become officially affiliated with the site and you become a partnered streamer. The weekend that I achieved that, before I even got to celebrate it, I think I developed COVID. Literally, so the Saturday night I ended a broadcast, and that's the last memory I have. And I woke up 2.5 weeks later in the ICU.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So you have no memory of those 2 weeks?
None
Were you conscious?
at all. So
Or were
I was
you
at home,
okay.
and I apparently wasn't feeling good, and I was just sleeping all day. And then one evening, my dad realized that I wasn't as responsive, so they called the paramedics, and I think like the freaking like fire and rescue came in to like get me down the stairs and take me to the hospital and stuff. But I had like respiratory failure to the point where they thought I had had a heart attack, which I didn't.
Well, that's good.
But my body had developed a bacterial pneumonia alongside COVID. So I had both at once.
Which is going to be hard for your body to deal with.
And this is as a 600-pound man.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, you're not living a healthy lifestyle. It's going to be hard, you know. So you're over 600 pounds. You have these issues. That's a lot of strain on the body. Mm-hmm. So you're probably just in and out of consciousness for those 2 weeks that you don't recall. How long?
No. So I was intubated.
Oh, wow.
So that is literally, that's the craziest thing, man. I got put on a ventilator the Wednesday following that Saturday. I have no recollection at all between Saturday night and Wednesday when I got put on the vent. Zero.
Good.
The last thing I remember was getting home and looking at my email and seeing that my Twitch partnership had been accepted.
And then you wake
and I
up
think I made
in
a post
hospital.
about it on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my God, thank you guys so much. I got partnered." And then that was the last thing I had posted. And then I woke up I think it was 11 or 12 days after that Wednesday, I got taken off of the vent.
So you're in the hospital. You're not able to do anything.
No.
I mean,
They wouldn't even let me see my parents.
okay. Even if you had your phone, is there anything you could have done from your phone to communicate with Twitch or anybody to kind of update, like, hey, I'm in the hospital?
I made a post on like Twitter.
Okay.
You know, like my dad and Danny did a live stream kind of talking about what happened
Oh, geez.
Crazy.
after I woke up. But you guys got to realize I went from being live 60 hours a week
To nothing.
and having 1,000 people there every day to gone.
Did you
nothing.
Did you lose that partnership because of this?
No. I did lose the partnership, but that's a different story.
Okay. Yeah. No, I was just curious at what
So
point.
no, it didn't impact that. It just, but you know, I was in the hospital for a total of like 61 days.
Good Lord.
So this wasn't just like, oh, Ethan got sick, he'll be back. This was like, oh, Ethan is like, we hope that Ethan's gonna live, you know?
How are you handling those thoughts?
I didn't know if I was gonna live, man. And honestly, I tell people this. It's a really strange analogy, but bear with me. Have you guys seen the Santa Claus movies?
I believe so. Yeah.
yeah.
with Tim Allen.
With Tim
Yes,
Allen?
yes.
There's a scene where he has his watch, and his watch has a meter of how much magic he has left. Mm-hmm. And I always make the analogy of, I feel like I literally used up all of my faith to get through that hospital, man. I have never prayed more. I have never listened to praise and worship more. I have never done any of that stuff nearly as much as I did in that 5-week period where I was conscious. Because there were times in there where I didn't, like, I didn't even want to be alive. And B, I wasn't sure if I was going to live to go home. So by the time I got home, because I spent a total of 22 days in the ICU. That's including the ventilation. And then I spent 5 weeks at a rehabilitation hospital after. So, and that transition saved my life.
The rehab
Because after
hospital?
the 21-day mark, we actually had to have the hospital change their policy on visitors for COVID patients, because per the guidelines, after 21 days of symptomatic things appearing, a COVID patient is no longer contagious. So on the 21st day, we were like, hey, listen, it's been 21 days. Let me see my dang parents.
Yeah.
Like, I'm legitimately surprised that I lived, just because I thought the isolation was going to kill me. I think that's, honestly, not to get too conspiracy theory on you, but I think that's what killed a lot of COVID patients.
Hey, you lose
Was
the
the
will.
isolation.
Yeah, you lose the will to live.
Yeah.
I mean, and isolation.
Yeah.
I mean, what do they do in prison as a form of brutal punishment? Isolation. Because
Yeah.
it takes away people's
They
drive.
literally wouldn't. They like it's not even like they could have done something like, oh yeah, they can come visit you if they like suit up. Like the nurses when I was in the ICU were literally putting on like freaking damn hazmat suits and like like
Yeah.
the N95s and stuff, man. Like, why can't my family come in and do that? You know?
Yeah, there's a friend of ours named Steve who is his wife was a COVID patient who passed away, and his nonprofit is working to create legislature kind of around this, and it's called the Never Alone Project. And the idea with it is that each person, if they're a COVID patient or they've got some kind of terminal illness, particularly if there's an epidemic that happened, that each one of them would be allowed one family member who's like their designated person to be able to go and to see them. They would have to follow like certain protocols, but just so that there are people who aren't like that, because I'm sure while you're kind of in and out of consciousness getting care, your family can't be there for you. There's people who can't see you, so you've got nobody to advocate for you. So the people who are the medical professionals, and this is nothing to knock them, but they're having to make all of these decisions for all of these individuals in that case, and in your case in particular, when you've been unconscious for weeks. Now you're 20-something days into this. You're transferring facilities. Now you've had this one group of medical professionals who's been with you for this long. Now you're transferring facilities, and they have to hope that the notes from the last group are good enough to really know like how your care and stuff should be directed, because the next thing is you've got no advocate. You've got nobody who's like, no.
Oh, I've got to tell you, man, my dad
crazy.
has been a paramedic for like 30 years.
Okay, right on.
He probably saved my life. He was literally in the morning phone calls with the doctors at the hospital while I was in the ICU.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
He was in everything.
Wow.
So he was my medical advocate through that. But I got to tell you, man, Mary Freebed was the rehabilitation hospital I went to. And I know this is way of an over-exaggeration, but I always tell people, like, it literally felt like being dragged from hell up into, like, heaven, man. Like, it was the atmosphere at the hospital I was in, and I know, like, a lot of people were dying from COVID. It was a pretty tragic time, but it was an atmosphere of death. Everyone there was literally talking about, like, oh, the poor 21-year-old redhead who was going to die on the vent. No one expected me to live. They literally, the staff gave me a standing ovation as I left that hospital because I was like the second or third person at the hospital to survive the ventilator with COVID.
Oh, wow.
So, but going from that atmosphere into an atmosphere where I had like a giant window to the outside, you have all these like therapists, like occupational, physical, whatever, that like actually care about getting you back to the point of independence was wild.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was really incredible.
Were you able to see your family there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too. Like there was that one day where they finally were like, okay, fine, you can have a visitor. And then the next day I got transferred to the new facility.
Wow.
And my dad literally stayed the night with me sometimes there. He just like put a blanket and a pillow on the couch. They didn't care.
Yeah, that's good.
That's awesome. So you end up with all of this stuff. Now you're 60 days away from streaming. So you've missed essentially 1,200 hours worth of revenue generation, which for anybody, that would be pretty devastating. How do you, like, what was the recovery like? So you get done there. Are you coming home? Are you immediately trying to jump on the stream? Like, what's that look like?
I made a big mistake going back to it right away.
Yeah.
But I did.
How come?
I was grasping at straws, dude. I was like kind of trying to grab what was already lost, And like I said, like with my faith depleting, kind of like that meter on the watch going down, man, I was such a bitter and angry person after I got out of the hospital because I had worked so hard and invested so much of my time and money to building that I couldn't even fathom that it was gone.
You said your faith was depleted. From my perspective, when I hear you talk about, like I've never prayed that that much in my life, listened to so much praise and worship, to me it seems like that would actually strengthen your faith, which is what got you through it. Do you feel like the faith being depleted was after when you saw that you'd lost everything?
Yeah, once I had gotten back and like with all the pain I was in, my right arm was limp for an entire year.
So there's
I had some pretty crazy nerve injuries going on
From laying in a hospital for that long?
from what, in my opinion, was lack of care when I was intubated, but
Okay.
nothing I can do about it now. But no, like I was physically incapable of being independent, and I was mentally, I literally didn't even understand why God had kept me alive.
Okay. So a little frustrations with God?
Yeah.
At what point did you ever kind of start looking at yourself and saying, yeah, I can be frustrated with all these other things? At what level of frustration did you have with yourself for putting you in this position?
Yeah, I've
That's a
always
hard
been
one to
really,
look at,
really,
right?
really hard on myself.
But that's a hard view to look and say, hey,
Yeah.
had I not done these things, had I not been this overweight, you know, like there's a lot of things that we pull the thread far enough and long enough, it can always come back to us. When did you have that like moment of like, okay, I can be frustrated with God, I can be frustrated with the staff, which frustration with the staff, it doesn't mean that that's not valid. But at what point did you say, all right, instead of me shifting these frustrations towards all these other things, when was your moment of like, okay, I need to actually take ownership over my life? When did that come?
Actually, before the hospital, when I had started the TikTok stuff, I had started really taking the weight loss seriously.
Okay.
So I had kind of like, actually did keto for a couple months before the hospital, and I had dropped like 55 pounds in 2 months leading up to that.
Wow.
That's when I went from like the 660 that I started at down to like around 600.
Wow. Okay.
So I was still kind of in that mode of like, okay, even with the frustration I had, the hospital was kind of when I realized that I didn't want to die.
Okay.
Because up until then, I didn't care.
Yeah.
That's why I was as big as I was. My entire teenage years and stuff, I hated myself so much that I didn't really care if I lived or died.
Okay.
even in
Which
the
I
midst
know
of
is
like,
kind of a jarring statement.
yeah,
but-
I mean, even in the midst of all that success on Twitch, that you're doing things that other people aren't doing, you still have that mindset like it doesn't really matter if I live or die.
Well, yeah, that's what, like I said, like 2 months before that, when I started the TikTok, I kind of started taking the weight loss seriously and kind of going like, oh crap, this could actually be a pretty cool life, you know? And then when I got in the hospital and I came that close to losing it, that's when I realized like, oh crap, I actually care about living.
Did anybody in your life know that you were feeling that way, that you didn't want to?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like, I would have never actually taken my life,
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
but you know, I didn't care either. You know, I didn't care enough to work on myself until 2021, you know,
Okay.
2020.
Yeah, so significant amount of apathy there, just kind of in relationship to that. So you come back, you start doing Twitch again. You had been averaging 1,000 views. What are you getting whenever you come back?
Like 100. So I
So
was kind of right back where I was in 2020 before that blow up.
So where along the lines do we get this shift to where we see, all right, so Ethan, the Twitch streamer, now becomes Ethan, the Instagram superstar, for
Yeah,
lack
so
of a better way to put it.
interestingly enough,
Yeah, what's that journey
I'm not
like?
going to get super into it, but I kept going on Twitch. You know, I wasn't the same guy I was before the hospital. Like I said, I was a really nasty, kind of just constantly angry, constantly tired, bitter person compared to what I was before the hospital. So I was, and like with the nerve injury, my arm was limp. So try using a mouse to play video games when you can't feel it and you can't really don't move your arm the way you used to, you know? I went from playing at that like top level to being like kind of the I want to say like average or right below or right above average player. So I think both the personality aspect and the skill aspect of my stream were gone, and that's what had originally made it. And like I was so worn out, guys, that like I was literally like falling asleep on stream. That's how thin I was spreading myself.
Okay. So what was a shift for you to recognize, okay, hey, this isn't something I can keep doing. This isn't sustainable. I need to find something else, you know, because I know there are people listening that are living that life right now. they're exhausted, they're wore out, the job isn't where it's supposed to be, their income's not where it's supposed to be. At what point do you decide, okay, hey, something needs to change and I'm in control, so this is what I'm going to do?
Yeah, man. So I kind of accepted defeat on Twitch in kind of mid to late 2022. I
Okay.
stopped renting the office. I moved everything back home. I kept streaming on and off a little bit. And then one thing led to another. I made the mistake of starting to talk about real world topics on stream because I've hit that point of like,
I don't care.
holy crap, I don't care anymore. Because I've always kind of like bitten my tongue about like my opinions on like real world stuff and religion and all and like COVID and all that. So I hit my tipping point of frustration with that. And 3 months after I started speaking my mind about the real world, I got swatted.
What does that mean?
So someone literally tried to have me and my parents killed via law enforcement. Have you guys never heard the term swatting?
You're gonna have to. I am sure that there's a lot of people in our audience that are unfamiliar with it. I am only familiar with it because we watched videos of it happening when this would have been in 2022, 23, when it started to become a really massive sort of thing. So you can maybe fill in some gaps where I'm missing it, but essentially, do you know what doxing is? Where somebody like throws a person's information out on the internet. Like, it's illegal to do.
Yeah.
Now you can be prosecuted for it, but that wasn't always the case even a few years ago. And so what they would do is essentially call in and say that there was a person in duress, or that there was an immediate threat, active domestic situation. I'm going to stay away from some buzzwords here.
Yeah.
But essentially that people were in harm's way and would call in threats in order to get a SWAT team or large bodies of law enforcement to raid a person's house. The first few times it happened, if I remember correctly, they were kind of done like as a joke between guys who were like high level gamers. Thought it would be really funny to do that to another person that was a high level gamer. Then it was kind of used as a weapon for like people that they thought were maybe cheating in a game. And then it became based on like ideological issues of, hey,
Well,
I don't
it's
like the way
literally
you're
like
talking,
people
and
just do it to people they don't like.
Yeah.
Or people they hate,
That's
I
what
would
it kind
say,
of transformed
more
into.
accurately.
Yeah. So what happened in your situation? Because this is a bizarre sort of phenomena that happened in a really weird cultural moment.
Yeah, man. So I was streaming, and I was down to like 50 viewers at this point in 2023, right? Like, because
Yeah.
I was just kind of a echo of what my audience used to be, you know?
Yeah.
But I was streaming, and someone called the cops and said that I had like murdered my sister. Don't even have one. And I was holding my mom hostage. And they said something interesting on the phone though. They said like, if anyone comes in, we'll kill you. And they claimed to be me, you know? So I was streaming, and now all of a sudden there's like 11 or 12 law enforcement vehicles lining our property. You got state police, county police, SWAT, guys out there with the megaphones. Everyone's got the M4s pointed at us, and they're just like, come out with your hands up type of thing, you know? Our driveway's pretty long, and my bedroom and the living room are on the opposite side of the house. So apparently these guys were out there for like 30 minutes trying to get us to come out, and we had no idea.
Oh, good grief.
Like, my parents were like, oh, why are the police here? Are they chasing somebody? You know? Like, they actually thought that they were, like, trying to corner someone that was on our property or something. So my dad goes outside to check it out, and then they're all screaming at him, like, turn around, put your hands on your head, walk down the driveway backwards. So the guy, one of the police guys ends up calling me while I'm streaming. I'm like, who's this? So I mute my mic and I pick up the phone. He's like, hey, this is the guy with this police department. We need you to come out with your hands behind your head and walk down the driveway backwards. Both me and my mom. So we ended up going out there. They detained all three of us, and then we gave them permission to like clear the house. or whatever. I was like, just don't shoot the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As messed up as that sounds, I just like,
I mean,
Yeah, that's a good.
So-
It's legit.
but no, man, like these people will literally do that to try to get you killed via law enforcement. So at that point, I'm like, listen, and I wasn't as immediately angry then as I am now looking back on it, because I was just kind of like in the moment, it's kind of hard to be angry when you're experiencing something like that.
He's gonna be shocked.
But like, holy crap, I am making like a tenth of what I used to. And the amount of warfare that I'm going through is not worth it. So that's when I quit. That's when I stopped broadcasting, was that month.
do you take a little bit of time to think about what you're going to do next? Did that situation force you and your family to sit down and readdress things, talk through things, evaluate things? Like what's the
That's when
dynamic
I
with your
decided
family?
to focus on my health.
Okay.
But something like, it's crazy, man. Like, it's literally like there was a pattern for like 8 years of every time that I built something up, something in my life happened and I allowed myself to tear it down or let it be torn down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So between 2020 and the beginning of this year, I literally lost and gained back 100 pounds 3 times.
That's a lot of strain on your body.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
And also your mindset. Like that has got to weigh like mentally and spiritually heavy on you. You lose 100, that's great, and then you get it back, and that has to be discouraging. But then you realize,
Yeah.
okay, cool, I did it. I'm gonna do it again, and then it happens again, and it happens again. Like, what was your mental journey during that?
Yeah, man. So I had lost about 75 after the hospital because they had taken like a ton of fluid off of me. You know, I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I didn't eat for a week after, just because of like I think it was kind of both the COVID taste and the hospital food at that initial place was really bad. So I didn't eat while I was there. I didn't start eating until I reached the rehab hospital. So I was down almost 100 pounds then. You know, sitting at home in recovery, gained it back pretty quick, you know, because I literally couldn't like get up and move around, but barely at all during that initial recovery period. So I wasn't moving around. My muscles were all nothing, and they still are like pretty weak to this day. But no, it's crazy, man. Like every time I got the weight off, something just really nasty happened. Like by the end of 2023, I had lost a lot of weight. And then in early November of that year, out of nowhere, my dog passed away. And I grew up an only child. I had grown up with this dog since I was 10.
Wow.
And she was in perfect health. You know, she was getting old, but she was moving around like she was a puppy, you know. She ate a mushroom and within 24 hours croaked.
Jeez. I'm sorry.
Taking her out in the same spot in our lawn that we had taken her out 14 years in a row. And then just out of nowhere, she ate a poisonous mushroom and was gone.
Dang.
And I was not strong enough to handle that. I had never experienced loss like that in my life. Like I've lost like some distant family members, like my grandparents and stuff. But that was like almost like losing a best friend, man.
Yeah.
Because I was so close with that dog, because that was like my companion for like the last decade and a half. You know, like literally I was like 22 when she died, 23 when she died. And I had her since I was 10. So I allowed myself to gain all that weight back by within like literally 3 months, like from November to January. It was like from like 550 back up to like 620.
Wow.
What are you consuming daily to gain that much weight back?
I have no idea, man. I started doing stuff that I hadn't done since I was a teenager, like Reese's Cups and stuff like that. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I know it sounds silly, but it's like really not. For me, at least, it was not hard to eat enough calories to just gain really, really fast.
You drink alcohol too, or
Nope.
no? Okay.
I actually don't drink soda either.
Oh, really? None?
None.
You
like
won't-
maybe, have you heard of Izzy's?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's not a soda.
They're
yeah.
like 60% fruit juice, 40%
Yeah,
carbonated
that-
water.
that's
That's
not a
the
soda.
closest thing to sodas we drink.
Like, so when you're gaming, you're not consuming a bunch of Mountain Dew, the nerd nectar, as they call it for gamers, right? Am I accurate with
I
that
used
statement?
to do like the unhealthy, like like pure leaf, like pure sugar or pure sugar, like sweet tea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but no, it was pretty much all just food.
Man, I mean, I get it, but I was also thinking like you were gonna be like, dude, I was having like 2 liters of Mountain Dew a day to stay on point for gaming, and then afterwards you go back to that. You know, I just not trying to be rude or insensitive. Like I know guys that they call it, like one of my buddies who's a big gamer. He's like, yeah, dude,
Nerd nectar
is what
accurate.
we call Mountain Dew. And I'm like, well, I get it. It tastes delicious, but
What
all
does
right,
it
so
have that makes them like quote unquote? What's the advantage of that? Because I never understood people who like unironically chugged energy drinks to sit at their desk and play games.
I don't know.
Because that that's like the shtick,
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
Red Bull gaming. Like why are you chugging caffeine when you're literally sitting at a desk staring at a screen?
It's,
do
You know
want-
what I mean?
it's supposed to help all the ADD kids focus.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know. So
I
yeah,
don't
man,
either.
I don't drink a lot of my calories.
Okay, so I mean, all right, it's a hard time. You go back to, like you said, something you hadn't done in a long time. It's a coping
Yep.
mechanism. Okay, so you lose your dog, which is horrible. Gain the weight back. What was your defining moment of like, all right, I've got to get back on the path?
I let it happen again, man. I spent the entire 2023, or sorry, 2024,
Yeah.
losing the weight again, and then my relationship with my best friend was at kind of a rocky spot, and I was really lonely, and my mental health was in the absolute pit. And then over the holidays, I gained it all back again. So I got down to like 570, and then by January of this year, I was back up to 624.
So January 6/24. Today, as we were recording, is July 1st.
Yeah.
Where are you at right now?
493.
What,
So
131 pounds.
bro?
that's a little bit more significant than the 50 or 60 you were gaining and losing. What's made the difference,
Yes.
man?
Yeah.
The difference was, now that I realized I wanted to be alive, the only reason to stay alive in my mind was for my future wife and kid.
Come on, purpose.
And once I realized that my failure was also failing them and not allowing them to thrive, I just didn't care. I just started
So that's something you think about every day.
every day. It's the only thing I care about.
And I'd be willing to bet you think about it throughout the day.
Oh yeah, every second.
Because as we talked about earlier, that complacency creeps in, and it's a gentle creep. It's not
Yeah.
like an sudden thing that you would be like,
It
no.
doesn't even exist in my mind anymore. Failure is not even an option.
Okay.
I literally would not be able to live with myself if I failed them.
Okay.
And once that clicked, I haven't really slipped up since. I had like one 4,000 calorie day on Father's Day, and I fasted the day after, and I was still down on the scale that week.
Yeah. Okay.
That's rad, man.
I like it. So go ahead.
No, I mean, so to kind of paint this picture for our people who are listening on audio, you are in January 624 pounds. You're also 6'5".
Yep.
And you got a pretty big frame. So this is not going to be one of those weight loss journeys that like, oh, he's trying to get down to 180. Like that's not feasible for
No,
somebody
my goal
your
is
size.
actually I talked with Jocko, and I told him, he's like, "What's your goal?" And I'm like, "My goal's 300." And he's like, "Bro, go 295."
Yes.
He's like, "Go 295, you'll be jacked." And I'm like, "All right, bet." So that's where that came from.
I was gonna say 275 to 295. You're gonna be jacked, son.
Yeah.
And I plan on doing strongman too. So my coach that I
I'm
was
all in.
introduced to through Jocko Fuel, his name is Joey Zatmary.
Okay. Yeah.
He's a national strongman champion.
I know.
And seeing
Joey
what he
knows a
can
little
do, and I found out I'm taller than him, which blows my mind because the dude looks like a tank,
Yeah.
you know. But if he can, if he can do that, I'm like, oh my god! Imagine what I could do in this once the weight's off. and I get the skin removed and I start building more muscle, like I could be.
And you're
pretty crazy.
young, kid.
Yeah, dude.
You are young.
You're about to enter into your prime muscle building years. You haven't even hardly hit them yet.
I remember my dad telling me, he's like, hey, just because my dad's a big guy, about 6 foot, 6'1". Yeah, he's like 6'1.5". Always been in the 225 to 240 range, like jacked, and I've seen him get up to like 250 jacked, and I was like, good Lord, he was just
He's a
tanked.
monster,
and
man,
then
yeah.
I've also seen him cut down to 185. But he was running a lot, and he was just like, just different health priorities because he had some health issues. And so he started running, and so I've always seen him. And I remember him telling me, he was like, because I was, when I was a kid, I was opposite of you, Ethan. I was, like, I remember in junior high, I wrestled at like the 92-pound range.
Yeah.
You
had to run around in the shower to get wet.
Yeah. And then in high school, it was like, I remember my senior year, I was like 135,
You were sub 150 when you were in the SEAL teams, right? When you first entered.
I was 145 when I went through BUDS.
Yeah.
And I just remember my dad telling me, Ethan, like, hey, when you get to that 20, your early 20s, it's going to be some growth. 25 to 30, he's like, your body is going to change. You're going to start putting on muscle mass, and you're in that stage right now, man. And you have great coaches. You have a partnership with Jocko Fuel now. So let's talk. So you mentioned Jocko. How did the whole Jocko Fuel thing come about?
Yeah, man. So trying to think of timeline here. Let me look at my calendar real quick. May 19,
Okay.
which was, let's see, 7 weeks ago. So 8 weeks ago, I decided, I literally was laying in bed at 3 a.m. and I saw a YouTube short about a doctor talking about how he helped Jelly Roll lose weight.
Oh, yeah.
He was literally like, 10,000 steps a day, non-negotiable. And I was laying in bed, and I had already lost 100 pounds this year at that point. Just dieting. Mm-hmm. Literally sitting on my ass playing video games 40 hours a week, dieting, doing nothing. And I was like, I could probably do that. And then a week after I made that decision, I went, if I'm going to put myself through all this physical anguish, I might as well start making videos again. And within the last 7 weeks of that, the numbers have been wild.
Really? Walk us through the numbers.
So I think at
I'm
this
willing
point
to bet
it's
that
well over 100 million video views.
100 million video views?
Yep. Instagram went from 0 to like 230 or 225,000. Facebook went from 0 to like 190,000. My TikTok went from 100,000 to like 220,000. It's been pretty wild.
What led you to Jocko Fuel? Were you using the products and you're like, dude, I'm a fan of these things. They work. I like what they
had
stand
been
for.
drinking the milkshakes for like the last 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Because when you go to the store, right, and they'll love this clip. When you go to the store, it's the only product there that's not full of crap.
Yeah.
No artificial flavors, just clean ingredients, man.
Okay.
And it tastes good, which is not
I
usually
agree.
a combination that exists.
I agree. It tastes real good. So, I mean, you're freaking consuming the products, which is also very important for our listeners to understand and hear, because I know there's a lot of I'll say this the right way to not hurt feelings.
I'll hurt feelings. You want me to say it?
No.
Posers, like people who promote it but don't use it.
Yeah, but then there's people that are entitled. I'll just leave it at that, right? They are entitled, and they feel like because they have a social media following that they should receive sponsorship and free products because of that. And it's like, well, what's your favorite product? What do you use? Oh, I haven't used it yet, but I would like this. I'm like, cool, go use it, and then maybe I'll introduce you to the team at Jocko Fuel. Because I, been with Jocko Fuel for a very long time because of my relationship with them through Jocko and what I do at Echelon Front. Helped Brian Littlefield actually build out the affiliate program back in the day.
That's
awesome. So I have a really good relationship with them. I'm also an invested partner in Jocko Fuel, and so the whole entitlement thing has always drove me crazy. And I love the fact that you're like, no, I was consuming it. I enjoy it. I like what they stand for. Discipline equals freedom is a big thing in life in general.
Well, that was the coolest thing too, man, because I didn't even really pay attention to the values at first.
Nice.
I bought it because of what it was.
Okay.
And then I made a video when I was at like 17,000 followers on Instagram a couple weeks in.
Mm-hmm.
I made a video. I was like, guys, tag Jocko Fuel. I know that this would be a mutually beneficial partnership. And I don't know if they saw that or if they
sure
really
they did.
like acknowledged
I
that
bet Maddie
video at
did.
first.
Yeah.
But then I made another video using one of their products, and I had sent them a DM before I made the first video. But in that initial DM I sent like 2 weeks in, man, I was like, listen, if we do this, I will make you guys money, and this will be a mutually beneficial thing.
Nice.
And since I signed I got on a call with the team, and it was awesome because they were like, we want to help you. Like, I went in and I was like, oh, this is going to be so sick. Maybe I will be able to save some money on supplements, and I'll have like a discount code in the affiliate thing. And then we went into the meeting and they were like, dude, we love your story and we want to pay you and we want to help you.
What was your initial thought and reaction to that?
It was wild, man.
Did it change your perspective on who Jocko Fuel is?
Oh yeah. And that's that's the other thing. When they started talking about the values, I was like, holy crap. Like Jocko's whole compassion towards others and discipline towards yourself thing. Like, that's something I'd like to say I've always practiced. Obviously, I haven't always had the self-discipline down until this year. Mm-hmm. But I've always been really, really hard on myself. So that resonated with me a lot. So after that initial meeting, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like so much cooler, and I align with them way more than I initially thought I did.
That's cool, man. Well, I'm happy to have you on the team. Makes me happy.
The confidence that it seems like you gained just by going through all of that stuff. And I will tell you, like, with our partnership with Jocko Fuel, it's been something that's been like from day one. The team has been super supportive, but I've always had the buffer whenever I've talked to somebody is like, oh, producer of the JP Dinnell podcast. Like, I don't have to have a lot of confidence whenever I go into a Jocko Fuel email or interaction, because like there's direct connection there, and you know, they know we use the product, they know we promote the product. Going in and saying, hey, listen, I've started an Instagram page that's a few weeks old. I'm getting a lot of traction. I've used your products for years. I'm going to be beneficial for your brand. That had to be obviously a bit of a gutsy move. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, so that had to be something that got their attention. Instead of it being like, hey, I want to talk about what partnership looks like or blah, blah, blah. You're like, no, I'm going to make you money if you let me, if you partner with me. That's got to be a little bit of a clout earner right there with people. When you were doing that, were you nervous about sending that message at all, or was it just pure 100% like, I know what I'm worth?
Because like, what's the downside to sending that?
Yeah.
There is none.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it with any other company. So, like, I'm very, very picky about who I work with. Like, back when I was popping off on Twitch, I probably received 100 business emails and responded to like 2 or 3.
Wow.
Like, that's just kind of how I was, which I kind of regretted after everything fell apart, because I passed up some like crazy money from like mobile games and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
hindsight, right? Hey,
no, it's just
we
kinda
call
how
it,
I've been, man.
Pete Roberts, who started Origin, which Jocko Fuel came from Origin. The partnership with Jocko to Origin and Pete Roberts and what Brian Littlefield was building out. And one of the things I love that Pete talks about is tuition payments. Life is going to give you tuition payments. You've had a good amount of them, and turning down those, things, and or not even responding to emails, like, those are tuition payments. Those are lessons that you've learned, and it's things that you're going to be able to apply to your life as you move forward in business and, growing your brand and, developing the life for your future family.
Yeah.
That's good, man.
So the channel's up over 200,000 followers and subscribers now. You've got this partnership with Jocko Fuel. Your story has been incredibly compelling and inspirational for people who have been following it, myself included. as I'm listening to your scale talk to you. So I want to know something about your weigh-in days.
Yeah.
We have a love-hate relationship with the scale. Like
Yeah, for sure.
I am not a huge fan of
I was
it.
going to say, when you say we, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about myself. Also, I know that you don't enjoy the scale all the time.
No, I don't mind it. I've
Yeah.
never minded the scale.
Really?
Never, not once.
Okay, so
Because my parents taught me the scale is just it's a unit of measurement.
yeah.
But
Well,
like,
have you ever been in a position where you've really needed to lose a lot of weight, JP?
not a lot like you. But that's what I was getting ready to say. It's like,
Yeah, for your fights there was though.
yeah, I used to have to cut weight for MMA fights and, a good amount of weight loss. I got up to 240, started working with Jonathan and Ann from First in Nutrition, got back down to like the 218 range in a short period of time. And the scale was a tool that helps you.
So-
and I've never had a bad relationship with the scale. But to Ethan's point, I think what he was about to make is like, I've never had to lose a bunch of weight. I've
Right.
never been like, and I know that there are people out there that number is something that has a mental effect on them to where that
100%.
is now a negative association with the scale because it's giving them the truth that they don't want to hear. My parents, and this is the other thing, I was raised different. My parents were personal trainers, on the side. So they did that. I mean, hard work, yes.
Yeah, baby.
And so my parents would explain to us like, hey, muscle weighs more than fat. There are going to be times that the scale isn't an accurate representation
This is what I was getting
of
at.
what's going
Yeah.
on in your life. And I've talked with my wife about that as well because, as she's, tuning things back in and she's had some health issues and, getting back on the path as well. It's like, hey, the scale, and that's what we've taught to our daughters because we have twin daughters that are 13 and it's like, no, you are not going to end up developing a negative relationship with the scale because it's just not something we should have.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that's one of the things that like with 75 Hard that's great that Andy encourages, I say encourages, part of it is the picture every day because the mirror
Yep.
doesn't lie the same way the scale does.
Yeah.
It's the reason Jonathan and Ann use both. My love-hate relationship with the scale has to do with the fact that much like what I've noticed on Ethan's videos is you can step off the scale and on the scale, and mine doesn't talk because I don't have the fancy scale like you. I don't have Siri buried in my scale somewhere. But he'll step on and he'll say, 493.6. And he'll step off and he'll step on and he'll go, 494.2. And then he'll step
I was
off
gonna
and
say,
he'll go
man,
step
like,
on
when you
again.
weigh as much as I do,
Yeah.
those scales and like I can't balance.
Right.
I've never even had enough balance to ride a bike without training wheels. So I can't stand still enough for it to be super accurate.
okay.
So I'll weigh 3 times and then average it out.
Smart.
Yeah, this is where my love-hate relationship with the scale comes in, is with this exactly. Then I will weigh myself at the same time every day, and I'll step on it, and then it's this, and then I'll step on it again, and then it's something else, and then I'll try to move it because I'm like, no, it's not. I'm just not in a level spot on the floor. That's what it is. I don't really weigh, and yeah. So just the bathroom scale tipping back and forth. So you do 3 weigh-ins, and then you kind of average the 3 out whenever you do it.
And I honestly, I don't know if I ever really had a negative association with the scale. I think I just weigh so much that it's really impossible for just a consumer scale to be super accurate.
Got it.
What was like the first time that you stepped on that scale? You're filming yourself with the voice for the first time, where hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to say something. There's no way for me to cover this up, right? You're not like stepping on the scale, looking at it, and telling everybody what it is. Your scale is going to give the read back to everyone of what's going on.
Yep.
What was the thought leading up to that, and like were there thoughts about like the vulnerability, or was it just accountability that you were thinking about in those moments?
I just wanted to be real, man. It's funny because if you look at the second weigh-in video I did, the scale went up 5 pounds.
Yeah.
And my reaction was genuine, and the audience's reaction was genuine. There's a reason that weigh-in got like 4 million views.
Yeah.
Because I have so much water weight and stuff. Like when you're in my size, 5 or 10 pounds of water is nothing.
Yeah.
Like I've had lymphedema issues my entire life. Like my legs have been swollen.
Okay.
So, and I know that'll go away as I lose the weight, but I still deal with it right now. Like if I have sodium or whatever, like a number, I'm sure, of different things in my body could cause me to retain an extra few pounds of water.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. The scale going up 5 pounds 1 week could mean literally nothing negative.
Yeah.
So, but I just want to show people what it is. And like, I think that's a good lesson for a lot of people too, is that the scale will move like that. And it doesn't really mean something. Cause I averaged like 2,000 calories a day, 7 days, the 7 days before that weigh-in where I was up 5 pounds.
Wow.
And
It is not physically possible for someone my size to gain 5 pounds eating 2,000 calories a day for a week.
It's a fair point.
So that number doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but the weekly weigh-in, I think, is just a really fun way to kind of track progress, even though the scale number doesn't really mean a lot when you're my size,
Okay. It doesn't, but it does.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you're using it as a tool
Yeah.
and for accountability and, transparency with people. That's the thing I love that Jonathan and Ann do with First In Nutrition is like by doing the scale and the pictures and also tracking all your food is because there are going to be times that your weight is going to fluctuate drastically between one day because they have you do daily weigh-ins. And so I'm doing daily weigh-ins. I'm traveling. I'm in 3 to 4 different cities a week. So I'm having to be very strict with all my food. And I'm traveling with a scale as well because I'm like, all right, cool. This is part of the path. They're like, let's do it. And there'd be times it fluctuate and I get frustrated, but I'm also recognizing, okay, water, travel, your body's going to retain water, when you're stressed or not sleeping well or on flights or, I went out and got a steak for dinner, which is good, but what was it seasoned with? How much sodium was there? Like, also, there are times that, a lot of people make the mistake. They're like, well, man, I'm only consuming this many calories. How could that be? Are they accurately tracking their calories?
Oh, yeah. That's
the other
one.
thing, you could be, and that's why understanding the difference of how to properly weigh your food is going to help you as well. So walk us through, like, what's your day look like in regards to tracking your food, prepping your food, exercise? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so I weigh everything. Unless it's like a little package thing that says the calories on it.
Yeah.
I'm big into salads, bro.
Okay.
We make our own Caesar dressing. And we make our own croutons using one of Guy Fieri's recipes. And I have
using
eaten
anchovies?
the same Caesar salad almost every day for the past 4 years.
Jocko and Leif are big Caesar salad guys.
Yeah.
Caesar salad, double chicken or double steak. Mm-hmm. That's what they do.
That's what I make every day. I put like 12 to 14 ounces of chicken on each salad. I'm eating like 2.5 pounds of chicken a day easy.
Okay.
So,
But I mean, that's now. Like I was doing for the majority of my weight loss, I was eating 1 salad a day. But with my size and with the strength training, my nutritionist recently we upped my calories by 25% last week, and I still lost 5 pounds.
nice.
Yeah, because you weren't getting enough nutrients.
Protein nutrients in general, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I went from 2,000 calories and 180 grams of protein to 2,500 calories and 250 grams of protein.
My guy.
What was your initial protein at?
175, 180.
Yeah, that's low.
Yeah.
And it's up, you said what, 225, 230?
250.
250. Yeah, my man, let's go.
Well, my goal weight, you do like the 0.8 to 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight that you want to have.
That you want to have, yeah.
So my goal is like 285, 295. That's like 240, 245 grams anyway. So 250 just kind of rounds it up.
I like it.
That'll be awesome. So are you using anchovies in your Caesar dressing? Are you doing like the legit anchovies
anchovy
and rye?
paste and
Really?
the key ingredient, bro, that changed the game. Me and my parents went to Outback a couple years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And they use a little bit of horseradish in their Caesar.
Oh, for sure, man.
And I was like, what is this taste? But literally that week we went and bought some horseradish at the health food store and we started implementing it into our dressing. And we were like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how important anchovies and a little bit of raw egg are in the Caesar dressing. That's why.
Oh yeah.
That's why you can't. Not that we'll have to deal with this, but
I don't think we do the raw egg.
Oh yeah. So this is why, because egg or Caesar dressing is one of Kirsten's favorite things, but you can't eat it when you're pregnant because it's raw fish and raw egg.
Yeah.
Yep, but that's one of the reasons why. So we had to find all these Caesar dressings that
Well,
didn't have
most
it in
of the
there.
Caesar dressings don't have that stuff, bro.
Terrible.
Yeah.
The ones that don't are terrible.
Yeah, they're just kind of like a modified ranch at that point.
Yes.
Modified ranch.
But I love you use the anchovy paste. That
Yeah.
makes me happy.
So, like, okay, so the salads are a big thing. Like, what are your other meals? Like, what are you eating at breakfast? When are you eating? How long are you staying fasted?
So I have done intermittent fasting for the last 2 years nonstop.
Okay.
20 hours a day,
Oh,
typically.
wow. Okay.
So I will literally eat from 1 to 5 or 2 to 6 every day. And I used to break my period with a milk
Yeah.
and like a protein bar, and then I would graze for a couple hours, and then I would have a big salad, and then I would end it. Now he has me bookending my eating period with salads both at the beginning and the end.
Okay.
So I'll do a big salad with nearly 100 grams of protein to start my day, and then I'll do a big salad with nearly 100 grams of protein to finish my day.
Nice. Okay.
But yeah, it's crazy, bro, because sometimes I'll do all chicken breast, sometimes I'll do half thigh, half chicken breast, but the salad itself stays the same every single time.
Okay. What's your physical activity looking like these days? What are you doing?
I was doing 10,000 steps a day for a while. There's been so much humidity lately that's literally not been possible for me. I've been trying. I've been hitting like half that.
You got a treadmill on the way, though, right?
What was that?
You said you got a treadmill working, right? You've
In
got
the
one
works.
coming. Yeah.
So, no, that's been rough though. Like between the amount of activity I'm doing in the gym now with the training with Joey and the humidity outside, I have been whooped.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I was still tired from the gym on Friday when I went yesterday, and yesterday was Monday.
Yeah. How many days a week are you hitting the weights?
I do 3 strength training days, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. Cool.
And that's only, we're doing 3 times a week right now because I have access to a pool during the summer.
Nice. Good.
So
cool.
I'm kind of mixing in some pool time and the walking and the strength training, and then that with all the nutrition stuff's been working pretty well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had access to a pool, because I know it would be great for your joints, and just literally walking in a pool, moving in a pool, jogging in a pool, just moving your arms laterally forward, back. There's a lot of things you can do in the pool that will put you in a state where you're going to be burning calories. And you're in a pool, so you're not dealing with the humidity as bad. It's not like you're out there walking. What's your plan? Have you and Joey talked about what your plan is going to look like for increasing as your body reacts to the strength training, to not feeling as tired, as exhausted, as you start putting on lean muscle mass while you're burning fat? Do you know what that plan looks like yet? Or are you just kind of like, hey, we're in this mode?
No, because the only thing we've done so far is just having a goal of trying to increase reps and or weight.
Nice. I
every
like
week.
it. Okay.
So we've been doing the same things the last few weeks, but just increasing the weight by a little bit or increasing the amount of reps a little bit each time.
Nice. What exercises are you doing? Because I'm going to assume that a lot of these things are new things that you're learning in regards to exercises and to use the gym properly, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was actually my biggest barrier, was not knowing what to do with the equipment and not wanting to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
So like for example, I'm trying to find my Google Docs app. Me and Joey have a doc together for all my workouts.
Nice.
Does that ever stop, like, trying not to look like an idiot in the gym? Because I still think about that whenever I'm doing something. If I had a bad lift or like something went weird, I'm super self-conscious of the fact that, like, oh boy.
Well, I think
look like a doofus.
that exists in every human. That's called our ego, right? And our ego gets in the way of us going out and learning new things and doing things. Or you might, I know there's been times where I've looked at my workout and I'm like, well, I'm going to do this one at home because I don't want anybody to see me riding the struggle bus on this one.
That's exactly right.
I do a lot. I do some of my stuff at home, man.
Okay.
So, like this week, on Mondays we do 3 sets of 10 to 12 chest press, lat pull downs, box squats, and dumbbell curls, and then like conditioning via either like slam balls or battle ropes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you like the slam balls?
Yeah.
I love them.
That wears me out fast.
You
like
can
any
get
of that stuff does.
Oh, yeah. And that ain't just you, Ethan. That is every single human. Because if you're putting in that effort to a slam ball and the battle ropes, I mean, it's a different beast, and it builds mental fortitude for sure. I love the slam balls because it's like you can get violent with them. Like
and he only has me going at like 60% intensity too. And I'm sure that's by design. He calls, I don't remember, I think this is the term he used. He called the training that we're doing progressive overload.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if that's an actual thing.
Well,
I think I said it right.
Yeah, he's being very smart because what he's trying to do is help teach you how to do these things and sustain this lifestyle. That's a big issue with a lot of people that have been out of the gym for a while. I know I've made this mistake. I'm gonna assume you have as well, where you've been out of it
from coming back.
Yeah, you've been out of it for a while, and then you get back into it, and you go back to like the exercises that you used to do at the reps and the weight, and then you either hurt yourself or you're so freaking sore and broken down, then you can't do anything for 2 to 3 days afterwards. I mean, I know you've heard the story that what Josh and I did when I found one of my old notebooks from my time in the SEAL teams, Ethan, for my workouts.
Yes, I know the story. You invited me to that workout and I declined. I was like, nah.
This was back from when I was legitimately in my prime shape in the SEAL teams. Found this old program, put it out to the guys, Josh Strasburger, who his whole default in life is like, Roger that, I'll be there. We do the workout. And he's like, bro, he's like, I couldn't do anything for 2 days. Yeah. And I was just like wrecked. And I was talking to my buddy Justin Blythe, who's a personal trainer as well and has a business, 360 Fitness. And he was like, hey, Hermano, you're 42. Like, hey, if you want to follow that workout, like, let's just scale it back a little bit to where it's sustainable and you can go through it, and then let's build you back up to where you need to be. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So what your coach is doing with you, Ethan, is awesome.
That's smart, man.
He's progressing you into these things to where it's enjoyable for you. How do you feel after a workout? Like, not tired, not sore, but mentally, like, has this been helping your, your mental state?
I think so.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy the strength training, and I just absolutely despise the cardio.
Oh, so you're a human. Okay.
Yeah. Dude, I can't, like, even with this heat this past couple weeks, the steps, I don't even want to do them. It's disgusting.
Can you do the steps? Can I challenge you to do the steps inside? It would suck. It's monotonous, but there's got.
No, I have.
Do you have some indoor malls close to you?
I was walking circles in my basement last week.
Do you have an indoor mall close to you?
Not close, no.
No, okay.
You did do the grocery store once, though, didn't you?
Yeah.
Bro.
Head in the grocery store.
Just making it happen. Go to the,
That was one of my favorite videos because you were talking, first off, and we talked about this a little bit off air. He's in Michigan, so he's talking about the heat, and he's like, it's 90 degrees. And it was like 106 here the other day with the heat index. And I was like, boy, 90 degrees sounds so nice and cool. But then watching him, one of his videos, he got his steps in the grocery store, just walking around it and really not caring that people are just watching him walk laps for an hour, man. That's
awesome.
Those are the ones that I look at and I'm like, all right, well, I can freaking go get my workout in today. If Ethan got 6,000 steps in a grocery store, then I can figure this out.
Yeah. And so the reason why I asked you that was to challenge you, like, in a friendly way, just knowing, like, hey, bro, there's a weight that you have to carry now. You chose this life to have followers. I'm not talking about the weight gain choice you made. You chose this life to have followers. Therefore, you chose a life to deliver impact and value to people. So now you're going to have to get creative, man. Okay, hey, it's hot, it's humid. It's not safe for someone of your size to be walking outside. I get it. You're smart. But you can make excuses or make things happen. And what you do is, like, you go to the grocery store, you find ways to make that happen. Because when somebody sees that video of you, like, maybe talking in the grocery store or afterwards, or people see that, they're going to sit there and think, okay, what are my excuses? If he's going to a grocery store to walk and get his steps in, guess what? I can do the same thing. If someone can go to an indoor mall, you go find an indoor mall, walk around there, get your steps in. There's ways to make it happen. And I love that you're doing that, man. And so I'm going to challenge you as a friend to keep doing that. Get creative.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Also, make sure you're swinging that left arm. That's what I'm going to say, because here's the most annoying thing with this fabulous piece of technology that Garmin made. If I'm not wearing my heart rate monitor and I'm pushing the stroller, it doesn't count my steps. I climbed a mountain. It took me an hour and a half to climb a mountain. We went over a mile. And my thing, I looked at it and it was like, you hiked for an hour and 32 minutes. It's like, yes. It's like, you took 15 steps. I was like, you are ridiculous.
Yep. Dude, that's the thing, man.
Physically impossible.
Treadmills, even because of my height,
Yeah.
to lean down and hold the bars while I'm walking, when your hand is on the rail,
Bro, you just got to
it does not count your steps.
swing it, park with your elbow, and then just start directing traffic. Just get
So it's like
those
I can't
steps in.
even go to the gym and treadmills don't really work for me right now anyway because of my weight. But if I do get on one and I have hold the rail for some stability, it doesn't track anything.
Yeah. Okay.
we got to get you hooked up with one of those heart rate monitors, because the Garmin heart rate monitor, one, it's got extenders, but two, it will count your steps even if you don't have the watch on, and it counts them pretty accurate. Cause
I never
A
heard that.
heart rate monitor?
yeah, the Garmin heart rate monitor counts.
Is it
your
like
steps.
what is it?
It's just Garmin. It's a chest strap. It goes
Yeah.
around your chest. It monitors you. I know
wow.
that. Yeah, you can buy extenders for it as well. But yeah, because you rock a Garmin watch, right? That's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, man, the data.
Yeah, the data is incredible, but that was my favorite thing, is that it counts my steps. So if I put the heart rate monitor
know
on and
that.
I'm pushing the kids, then I don't have to worry about swinging my arm.
I will have to look into that,
Yeah.
man,
The
because that does sound like it
HRM
would be a lifesaver.
Yeah, the HRM Pro Plus is the one that counts the steps and all that stuff. It's freaking rad.
Nice.
I got one more for you about the social media stuff. So you've been talking a little bit about how, you started strength training. I saw a post where you're having to address the "why aren't you stronger" questions. As vulnerable as this whole journey is, and as authentic as you've been in bringing us into the back end of it, you seem like you've got a significant amount of mental fortitude, a great support system. Not everybody's got that. What advice would you give to somebody on dealing with the negativity that you find online? Because it seems like, you got 100 great comments, and then there's the two people who, have stuff in there and they're like, oh, here's another guy, trying to make money off of, losing his weight or expecting you to fail or something like that. How do you deal with that? Do you just block it out of your mind? And what advice would you give to somebody who's
Why
experiencing
on
that?
earth would you take heed of the opinion or thoughts of somebody that you do not respect?
I love that.
That's all it boils down to me. I have never cared what people said about me. The comments on my gaming content were 80% negative. It was a complete 180 from the fitness content.
Yeah.
Like, the majority of the comments on my gaming content were about my weight, even though the content itself had no relevance to my weight.
Wow.
Even when I made a video when my dog died, half the comments were fat stuff. Like, that's the kind of community I came from. So I never gave a crap what people said. If I don't respect you, I have no reason to take heed of what you have to say. That being said, I'm also someone who's capable of listening to feedback or taking a compliment,
Yeah.
But I don't have to let that affect me if it's particularly if it's not someone I don't have respect for.
It's pretty easy not to have respect for somebody who just gets online and posts negative stuff about someone who's trying to better themselves too.
I've never seen somebody successful in life talk down on other people. I have.
Yeah.
Maybe it's out there.
Yeah.
But I know people that are building businesses or, trying to do something to better their life. I've never seen somebody who's built a business talk down on somebody for trying to build a business. I've never seen somebody who has been able to, that would be ridiculous. It would be like you in this journey right now. You went from six.
My
Sorry.
heaviest 660 at the beginning of this year, 624.
That's right, 624 to 490. There's not even a percentage of a chance that you would then talk bad on somebody who's losing weight themselves. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so the people that are saying these things are, unfortunately, they're miserable people. And the hard shift is in our minds is okay, man, what's going on in their life? And trying to have empathy for those people and realizing like, oh man, they have a miserable life that they're living.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's a hard shift, but you seem to be handling it well. Like you said, you're like, hey, I don't buy it. I don't buy into it. I don't listen to it. So what would your advice be for people that are out there wanting to get on the path towards their health like you have in regards to like, because there's going to be people out there, Ethan, that don't have the ability that you have to shut off those negative comments. Like some of those are going to ruin people.
Not everyone needs to share it.
Okay.
Really.
That's good.
Like, the most important thing is that you do it.
Okay.
Like, if you're not someone who can if you're not someone who can handle the things that happen when you put your life online, you should not put your life online. You should get yourself prepared for that before you do it, because that's just going to make it way worse.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
That's good.
But 100%, that's part of that honest self-assessment, right? Is am I actually mentally capable of doing this? How do I typically receive negative feedback? And if I'm somebody who has allowed that to have an adverse effect on me in the past, putting myself online into the cesspool that the internet can be and saying, hey, here, everybody, have free reign to say whatever you want to about me. May not be the best environment for you, man. That's a great piece of advice. And
I don't like to be that guy that's like, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't do social media. But they're like, you have to be willing to deal with what comes and what's entailed with putting your life on the internet. Way more of my life is online than should be, but that's my choice.
It's your choice. Yeah. That's cool. What are so as you continue this weight loss journey and you're becoming more physically capable, are there some different sports that show interest to you that you'd like to be able to start doing as activities?
Fighting. 100%. That's literally it. Like tennis recreationally, but I want to get into the fighting really bad.
Maybe pickleball, if we can get you into pickleball with Camden. Maybe pickleball.
I'm down with pickleball, man. I've always called that upscale ping pong.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
So
it's just ping pong on the floor.
So a little bit of stand up, some Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu type of training.
I don't know what kind. I'm assuming like MMA, Jiu-Jitsu kind of stuff would be more up my alley.
Yeah. So to do MMA, which is mixed martial arts, you have to have a base of your ground game, which is, you start standing. So, knowing how to fight with your hands, elbows, knees, feet, throwing kicks and punches, which is going to be rooted in Muay Thai, boxing. But Muay Thai is going to be superior to boxing when it comes to MMA type of training. But it's good to have that boxing foundation, Muay Thai foundation. Wrestling is important because it allows you to take people down and stop people from taking you down. And then jiu-jitsu, you're gonna be on the ground, and so being able to train jiu-jitsu it's going to be a non-negotiable for you. And the cool thing is fighting is awesome, but it has a window. You can't fight forever. There's a lot of wear and tear in your body.
Yeah.
Also a lot of unnecessary damage to your brain because you're going to be getting hit and kicked and punched. Like those aren't good things for longevity. Yeah. Jiu-jitsu, there's no strikes, which is beautiful. It's a sport that you can be as competitive as you want. And there are some big boys in jiu-jitsu that are smooth with their game and they're athletic, which you're on the path towards having that athleticism if you continue to stay on the path of training, which you're going to. Like you said, it's a non-negotiable. It's something you do and think about every day.
Yeah.
So I look forward to when you start training jiu-jitsu, because I know Origin, I'm speaking on behalf of Origin because of the relationship I have with them, but I mean, you're already a partner of Jocko Fuel. There's no reason why you shouldn't be wearing Origin gi.
Well, no, and I told that to Lucas before the podcast. Like, the only reason I haven't pursued that partnership yet is because I'm not small enough. Like, I don't fit into a 3X yet, man.
Yeah.
I've gone down from an 8XL to a 6XL in the past 7 months.
Let's go, man.
It's still going to be probably another 6 or 9 months before I can even fit into a 3X.
Okay.
So, and I think, to my knowledge, that's like the largest size they make. So
currently,
that just doesn't make sense yet.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I'm saying I'm looking forward to like seeing you training jiu-jitsu, because it is going to give you a new drive, a new purpose. And with how intelligent you are, jiu-jitsu, it's a never-ending game.
Yeah.
You know, Jocko's been a black belt for 20 years, and he's still learning things, you know. And I think jiu-jitsu is going to be a really good thing for your mental health as well. And the camaraderie that you get through jiu-jitsu.
So good.
Some of my closest friends have come from jiu-jitsu. And, you know, like Lucas and I are part of a ministry, Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu, where we do live events, and it starts off with a free seminar, and someone shares their testimony, and then it's open mat for training. And it's a community that we've built based around faith and jiu-jitsu, which
that's awesome.
Once you get in that jiu-jitsu game, brother, like that's what you're going to also be a part of. And it's also, you find the right gym like that we're at Double Five. It's also a family atmosphere. Like, my kids train. My wife is going to get back into training, you know, now that she's healed up and feeling good. And, you know, I just see that in your future as well, man. And it makes me happy.
Man. And like, I live in such a small town right now. Like, I don't know, my local gym is not bad, but it's like, I definitely want to be somewhere that has like more of a community centered around the things that I care about, for sure.
So are you wanting to move in the future? Or near
soon.
Future? Okay. What areas are you wanting to move?
So right back when that growth was happening, you know, I was in a position for the first time in my life to like get a vehicle, move out of my parents' house, you know. Mm-hmm. And then with everything that happened, that all kind of got put on hold right up until like this year.
Okay.
So, but no, I've been struggling with that, man, because it would be so easy for me to like go out to Philly and be with Joey and train with him in person.
Oh, okay.
And kind of accelerate that. Yeah. But I would like to end up in Tennessee.
What part of Tennessee?
A town called Cookeville.
I know where Cookeville is.
It's 45 minutes east of Nashville, and it's 20 minutes west of my family.
Oh, okay.
Rad.
So it's like the perfect spot, dude. And it's a college town that has like all the stores and restaurants you could ever ask for, you know?
Yeah. Cookeville. That I was not expecting you to say that name, but I know Cookeville. Yeah. I met my wife in North Mississippi near Memphis, Tennessee, and you know, we have friends in the Nashville area, and that's awesome.
Well, that's the cool thing, man. Like, I could make all the connections and do a lot of business stuff in Nashville, and then still be close to family and still have access to everything we would need right next to us. And so I've been struggling because, like, in my mind, I'm like, okay, when I get married, we'll build a house in Cookeville. But now I'm also like, maybe I should start putting some roots down there before that. But then, like, now I'm working with Joey, who's over in Philly, and I'm starting to have, like, more than just Danny as friends here for the first time in my life. So I'm kind of torn.
Yeah. Well, pray about it. You know, one of my pastors, Pastor Tyron, he's done this himself, and he always encourages people to do this. You know, he's talking with my son about, my son was either going to go to trade school or the military. Now he's, you know, headed towards the Marine Corps route in the military. And Pastor Tyron told him, he's like, fast. He said, anytime I've ever had to make a important life decision, I would fast, because it would give him the clarity, and I would encourage you to do the same, because it's going to be easy for that confusion to creep into your life. Like, do I go to Philly? Do I go to Nashville? Do I go to Texas? Like, where do I go? You're like, because you're going to start creating a lot of legitimate friendships through social media because of the influence that you have and because of what you're building, you know, and you're going to start being torn. Like, all of a sudden, you know, you might have some incredible relationship that comes from somebody out in Nevada or Arizona or down here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And you're like, oh man, like, should I be there? And then when you start getting to know the people at origin, this is what I'm going to tell you. You start getting to know them. You go out there, you see the factory. You're going to have the same struggles that my wife and I have of, man, it'd be really cool to live here in Maine. Maine's a great place. It's beautiful. The people are awesome. And
the lobster is amazing.
And I have like my good buddy. I'll just say his nickname because of his job, but B-Vigs, my buddy Brian. He's a state trooper in New Hampshire. Great state, right? You know, and so it's just like it's going to be hard for you. So I would encourage you to fast.
Well, and I'm really trying to take advantage of that no ties thing right now too.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is literally nothing keeping me here. Like I don't necessarily want to leave because of my friends, but I'm also at a position right now where I could travel freely with little to no repercussions.
Take advantage of that window.
Exactly.
My advice
I
to you,
want
I'm
to
42,
literally-
you're 25. Take advantage of that. I know Lucas is like,
Agreed. Hey, listen, dude. I was at 25. I had just finished up my time as a missionary in Canada. Worked a youth camp, bought tickets to Europe, and then spent the next several months living out of backpacks on and off of charter buses that took kids that were taking gap years from Australia around to the continent. It's a wonderful age to get out there and to do some stuff, man. You mentioned strongman stuff too. Are you you gonna see if you and Joey can finagle your way into the Shaw Classic here in a few weeks and see if you can go look Brian Shaw eye to eye and tell him, hey, one of these days I'm gonna be here?
I don't know, man. Me and Joey have talked more into the future when it comes to events and stuff.
I'm just saying,
Like,
go check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because we wanna go to like the Mr. Olympia and stuff like that. Like, I think that could be really cool from like a networking and like a content standpoint for me and Joey to do stuff like that together. Because we're gonna form a really strong bond through this like coach
yeah,
For sure.
trainee relationship. You know.
that's awesome.
Right on.
But literally, like I'm like at the point now where, like I absolutely think that I thrive on camera. Like I feel like I always knew from the moment I started broadcasting that this is the kind of thing I wanted to do.
Nice.
And I think now I'm in a position where it would be really cool to literally spend the next 2 or 3 years while I'm on this journey traveling and collaborating and cross-pollinating as much as possible. Because in this space, there is literally no downside to collaboration.
That's true.
And the experiences that would entail like traveling all over the country and like meeting these different creators and sitting down and doing stuff like this with them would be really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited that you chose to collaborate with us today.
Yeah.
And man, before we get some final thoughts from you and from Jeremiah, I want to thank everybody who has been watching, supporting this, and make sure that you go check out not just what we're doing over on Instagram and on YouTube, but go check out Ethan over there at Ethan Benard. That is ETHANBENARD. There's no R's. It's not Bernard. It's Ethan
There's
Benard.
one R,
Okay, that's true.
just
There's
not
one
where
R.
you expect it.
That's right. It's not multiple R's. None of us have easy last names to pronounce. But if you want to stay part of the conversation, go follow him. Check out JP Dinnell. That's 2 N's, 2 L's. I mean, Lucas Pinkard. And go check out maybe some of the hump day health hacks that we're doing in conjunction with our friends over at First in Nutrition. If you go to firstinnutrition.com/JPpod, they're offering you 4 free weeks of nutrition coaching so that you can get in on the game on your own. We talked about Jocko, all the awesome stuff that's happening at Jocko Fuel and with the folks over at Origin. If you go to Jocko Fuel, you can use code Ethan or JPpod20. Both of them save you 20% on all of your Jocko Fuel purchases. But without Jocko, without all of that connection, there is no such thing as Echelon Front,
Yeah.
which is the reason that you're doing the stuff that we're doing here. That's how all of this stuff came about. Echelon Front is the premier leadership consulting company right now, not just in the U.S., but globally,
Yeah.
making those moves, man, and influencing people. I was listening to a story about a guy from Scotland who was getting some consulting from EF and just the way that it has changed his business, even abroad, and how these leadership principles that you guys talk about are applicable everywhere. Get on the Extreme Ownership Academy. There is stuff at EO Online. You can be part of the Monday afternoon calls. We had a good one this past week.
Yeah.
Was Leif was on there telling stories, which is a lot of fun to get to hear that. And then stay in the game with Jesus and Jiu-Jitsu. Once you get your Jiu-Jitsu gear from Origin, come on to one of our events that JP was talking about.
Yeah.
We've got some cool stuff that's happening at JesusandJujitsuUSA.com as well. Some instructional videos are being posted there. We got a roll-a-thon coming up here at the end of this month where you can come and support the ministry. And we're doing some work with Fighter's Passport to where you can find out exactly where all of the gyms are that are participating in that and support the crew in that way. We've also got some gear that we're going to send out to Ethan, the folks over at Little Cattle Co.
Get that beef.
That's what I'm talking about, dog. Get your beef tallow products. The new After Sun Care stuff is out now. The Invigorating Coffee Scrub, which has not yet helped me grow my hair back, so I'm going to say that that's debunked. However, it is also keeping me from having too much extra skin. Just, the dandruff.
Yeah.
It's really the worst now that the beard is back. Yeah. That's the worst place for the dandruff, right? Invigorating Coffee Scrub, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Helps with the exfoliation. And then the beef sticks, the jalapeno and the regular, you can order them in the pack that's got, I think, like 10 or 15 of 10. 10 of each of them in there. Absolutely fantastic. On the Path Printing, where JP and Josh have partnered together to take care of all of your apparel printing needs at On the Path Printing on Instagram. Shoot them a DM. Get your new stuff, your new gear and logos and stuff out there on the shirts and stuff so people are seeing it. And finally, over at Bruiser Arms, the men themselves, JP, Leif, and Jocko, putting together custom gear packages, the very same things that they would have used whenever they were out eliminating the enemy. And
that is sweet.
Yeah. Ethan and I were texting back and forth about some of the stuff on the Bruiser Arms page. He's putting together a wish list.
Yeah.
So that they can get that stuff out there to our boy in Michigan, or maybe if he moves over to Tennessee, wherever it is that he's going.
You'll be able to get cooler things living in Tennessee than Michigan. I'll just say that. But whenever we have Leif and I were talking the other day, and I've been talking with Chantry, one of the Austin SWAT guys that's been helping with that. Putting on some courses. It would be cool to get you down to do a little running and gunning, Ethan, get you on the shooting range. And, it's just a new skill set that you'll be able to develop, and it'll be a lot of fun. But, yeah, man, Ethan, I appreciate you being here. I just want to give you the opportunity to close out with some final thoughts that you might have for our listeners, and then I'm going to close it out.
Yeah, man. I think, like, some of the virtues that they talk about at Jocko, man, like the self-discipline equals freedom thing, that's huge. Mm-hmm. Like, I have had more motivation than I've had in my entire life this last 2 months with the amount of support I've received, but that motivation does not mean anything if you don't have the discipline to act on it.
I love it. Well, with that, I hope this episode has been a reminder to go out there to do the work that is needed, to put in the effort, to build your legacy, and to never settle. This has been the JP Dinnell Podcast, episode 93.